The coin acts in India's favor for the first time. This Border Gavaskar Trophy, you'd think everything else has been going in their favor, and now Australia will have to take second strike. India will bat first in the third test of this Border Gavaskar Trophy in Indore. Couple of changes, lots of changes on both the sides. So let's get straight into it with Aakash Chopra, Wasim Jaffer, and Ian Chappell on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. This match day morning. Good morning to Aakash and Wasim. Good afternoon, Chappell. The big change, of course, is the one that India were expecting. The one change in communication that came after the second test is that KL Rahul is not vice captain. In press conferences, it was said that doesn't mean anything, but on the day, it means that KL Rahul is not in the playing 11. Shubman Gill gets a go. Let me come to you first, Wasim. Is that a change you agree with?
Very much so. I would have probably played Shubman Gill in from the start itself. But yeah, I mean, for a player like KL Rahul, I've been disappointed with his approach a little bit. He's somebody who's looking like just occupying the crease. He's not looking to score runs. He's not the old self of KL Rahul. So sometimes a break helps you. I feel this break will help him to think about his game more. And somebody as good as Shubman Gill, who's batting so well, in such a red hot form, I think you need to play him. So I think it's a good call. I'm surprised that at Shami being rested. I mean, India had a 10 days break and he must have recovered as well. And he didn't bowl a lot in the last test. So I'm surprised that he's been rested. I would have played Shami.
Yes, Wasim has mentioned the other change as well. So let's just quickly take you through the lineups for this third test. We'll begin with India, where there are a couple of changes. Rahul, like we mentioned, misses out. Shubman Gill will take the opener's role along with Rohit Sharma. And Mohammad Shami, as Wasim just mentioned, has been rested. India taking stock of workload management. There is of course only so many pacers you've got around, and Umesh Yadav, who himself has some great numbers bowling in home conditions over the last 4 or 5 years. He comes in. He's the second pacer. We'll get that up in just a bit. But let me go back to Akash with the main move. Akash, you'd mentioned that you do expect KL Rahul to miss out this time and Shubman Gill to come in. What do you expect? Okay, we have the lineups here. Let's just take you through that first. Like we mentioned, two changes for India: Shubman Gill in for KL Rahul, and the other one right at the bottom, Umesh Yadav coming in for Mohammad Shami, who's been rested. India looking at workload management. You know that Mohammad Shami is someone who's likely to feature in other formats as well, so he will not be part of this third test, despite having had a great first couple of games where he's taken 7 wickets and made a lot of impact in very few overs that he's bowled. For Australia, too, there are two changes. David Warner had been ruled out of the series with injury. Travis Head did open in the second innings, and we expect him to open here as well. Pat Cummins, unfortunately, is not there. He's still back home, and our thoughts with him as he goes through some difficult times. Mitchell Starc returns for the first time this series, and Cameron Green, who too missed the first two tests, is back in. You'd expect him to slot in at number 6. Australia keeping the three spinners who played the last test in Murphy, Lyon, and Kuhneman, but they will have a fifth bowler available in Cam Green. And Mitchell Starc, who obviously has the primary role of bowler, also has an average of 33 when he bats in test matches in India. So Australia will hope for some batting depth as well. Second India change. Akash, you'd expected KL Rahul to miss out for Shubman Gill in this game. What is it that Shubman Gill brings to this side? How much of a point of difference do you see him being in this playing 11 as he opens along with Rohit Sharma?
Shubman Gill, of course, we all expected that he will be playing in this test match. And India has won the toss. India is also batting first for the first time. So you get the first use of a surface, which is going to deteriorate, in my opinion, quite radically over the next 2-3 days. It looks bone dry. The cracks are there. Yes, it's a black soil pitch and not a red soil pitch, but I am expecting a lot of turns. So if it is going to be a 3.5 day test match one more time, it's always good to actually have the first crack. So winning the toss, batting first is an advantage straight away. Shubman Gill has scored a century on this surface not too long ago against the Kiwis, where actually both openers piled on the runs, some 220 run opening partnership or something. And he is a guy who's in form. He'll be aggressive. And this is where I think Australia will also be tested, because if you have only one fast bowler, a premier fast bowler, and then the other guy is an all rounder, on day one of a test match, sometimes you feel that, oh, I wish I had another fast bowler. But that's not the case anymore. Green may bowl a few defensive overs, not really attacking overs, and you are looking for wickets, and that's what Shami and Siraj were doing. Whenever they had the new ball in hand, they were actually, so you hunt in tandem, you work together, and that is something that Australia might actually miss on day one.
Yeah, just to take forward that point Akash mentioned, the same when you can give you so much change in just less than a month. That ODI Akash reference where Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill both hit centuries saw India get close to 400. You wonder whether any team will come close to 400 over the course of these next 3 or 4, or the very unlikely scenario of 5 days. Let me go straight to Chappell now. Good day to you, Chappell. Thank you for waiting all this while. The two changes for Australia. On expected lines, we knew that Warner and Cummins will not be in this test. Mitchell Stark returns, Cameron Green back in. How much does that alter the look of this Australian lineup? What do you expect from this changed 11 this time in Indore?
Well, the good thing for Australia is that they've now got a fifth bowler in Green. Now, whether you should be opening the bowling with him, I'm not so sure. I think you're better to have it in the hands of a genuine opening bowler, but Cummins being out, that's not possible. Now, losing the toss doesn't mean you've lost an advantage. What it means is that whatever you do, whether you bat or you bowl, you've got to do it very well. Now, if India happen to bat well, then it's a huge advantage to them. And to me, that's been Australia's problem. Apart from the fact that their bowling, I'm not convinced by Kuhneman at all. I don't think he's going to bother the better players in India. But Australia have got to get 300 minimum somehow. Now, whether this batting lineup can do it, I need to be convinced that they trust their defence, and I think that's a big problem in India. If you don't trust your defence, you're in trouble. You'll play panic shots. Head to open. Well, I think that's an indication that the selectors and the selections on occasions on this tour from Australia have been abysmal. I think it's a further indication that they don't really know what their best batting lineup is for India. And equally, I don't think they know what their best bowling lineup is for India. So, will they get something better? I mean, Smith is talking about learning from the first two tests and improving the way they go about things. Those things are all very easy to talk about. But the important thing is, can you do them out in the middle? And that's the question Australia will only answer by, a couple of days' time when they've batted in the middle.
And that will obviously be where this game gets decided. Wasim, if you do lose the toss in conditions like this, what you need at the bare minimum when you go into bat in the second innings is that big sort of score. This is an Australian side that is yet to have made 300 in a single innings this series. Is there any chance of that changing? What do they need to? What do you wish to see different from the Australian batting lineup in the time they've had to just rethink between Delhi and Indore?
Well, I think at the end of the both teams are batted in the first inning. They need to be competitive. They don't need to be too far behind in the game in the first inning. If that happens, I think the advantage obviously is with India. They're batting first, but when Australia bats, they need to get closer to what India make or even more. Otherwise, the game's going to get too far behind from them. I mean, with all the players that has gone back, with Pat Cummins not being there, Warner has gone back. This Australian team still looks decent, I feel. Head has batted well. I thought whatever he batted in the Delhi, he looked threatening on that second evening. So I think they won't miss Warner that much. But the top four has to bat the bulk of the overs. That's going to be the challenge. Usman Khawaja, Manas Labuschagne, Steve Smith, they need to come to the party. If that doesn't happen with that hard SG ball, if we lose too many wickets too early, then it's gonna be game over for them. So those four players are pretty critical for them.
Akash, thoughts on what Cameron Green lends to this Australian batting lineup? Because on paper, it's not as if all of them have looked clueless all along. Khwaja had a good knock in Delhi. Head had that impactful innings in the second innings. You know Smith and Labuschagne, we don't need to talk about them. And Hanscom has actually been one of their more impressive batters, especially facing spin in this series. So, how much does Cameron Green add to that side coming in at number six?
See, this is a series that's been challenging with regards to the batting, and it's not just limited to the Australian batting. Just have a look at the Indian batting. Barring Rohit Sharma, it's only Akshar, Jadeja who've scored runs. Others haven't really fired yet. So we will cut some slack to the batters who have not scored runs, not just Australians. I think it's Indians are in the same boat. Cameron Green at six. See, I'm expecting a bit more positivity. And he's someone who probably will go downtown and not sweep because whatever little I've seen of Cam Green, he's got the height, of course, and then of course the reach, and then he likes to take on the spinners or the faster bowlers, but he goes downtown. He doesn't really look at the square leg mid wicket kind of option too quickly in his innings. So that's something that will be a refreshing change. That somebody we've seen whenever Australians have attacked, they've at least on a couple of occasions they've rattled the Indian spinners. I remember. That little 12 over session in Delhi test as well. So that is something that you expect. You expect a bit more application, you expect a bit more fight. But Cameron Green, see, he's an exciting prospect, one of the better all-rounders in the world right now. So it is always good to have him in the mix. His batting, if he can contribute, it just adds to the Australian total. And I agree with Wasim, you have to be competitive. If you are lagging behind in the game, remember you have to bat fourth innings. That won't be easy on the surface.
The other bit that adds to Australia's batting lineup, of course, is, as we mentioned, Mitchell Starc returning, has good batting numbers in India. In fact, has enjoyed batting in India a lot more than he's enjoyed bowling. Chappell, I know that you're not of the view that you can be relying on your numbers 8 and 9 to save you in test matches. But if you look at the series so far, the major point of difference in batting between the two setups has been India's lower order. The two batting orders have India have only marginally been ahead of Australia, and that's largely down to that one Rohit Sharma innings. But if you look at the bottom four batters, India's averaged close to 50, whereas Australia's have not even made 100 runs between them in four innings. So Mitchell Starc coming in eight probably lends a little bit of confidence to the batters above him that, okay, we do have some depth here.
Yeah, but if you're relying on your bottom four to win your cricket matches, you're in big trouble. You've got to get runs out of the top six, and I mean, if Stark can add a bit to that, that's fine. But him without the top six making runs, it doesn't really count for much. And the thing about Stark is he's a good striker of the ball, but he likes to hit a lot. Now it's far easier to hit and succeed if you're in front. But if you're trying to do it from behind, it's not so easy and it generally fails. So don't worry about what Stark does with the bat. Worry about what Stark's going to do with the ball. And if he gets a few runs that adds to what the top six have done, then that's a big help to Australia. But it's no help if the top six don't make runs.
And Stark with the ball, Wasim, if I come to you, also adds another layer to this Australian side in terms of creating that rough for the two off spinners to operate from. You've got Todd Murphy, who had such a good debut. Nathan Lyon obviously needs no introduction. And both of them will now bowl, at least one of them will be bowling to a side where Mitchell Stark has created a bit of a rough for them from his left arm over angle. That also adds a new element to this Australian side, doesn't it?
I think it does. Yeah, Nathan Lyon will obviously enjoy that. Even though Ashwin will also enjoy that. But I would say that Mitchell Stark as a bowler is far more important than the Mitchell Stark, the batter for Australia at this point of time. The good thing is he's a good reverse swing bowler, and the Indian tail that's been troubling the Australian bowlers. They'll probably feel that Mitchell Stark can probably do some damage there if he gets that reverse swing and if he gets those tailenders out a little bit, not tailenders, but the lower order batters for the India. I think that will be a pretty good. I think he's far better bowler in Indian conditions than Pat Cummins, I would say. So that will be a big boost if you can get that lower order guys out. I think Australia will be much happier if Stark, the bowler, turns up today.
Just to make a point
Right.
on that off spin bowling too, it's fine to have footmarks out there, but you've got to bowl outside off stump. You've got to a really good off spinner surely is aiming to hit the top of off stump. So however far he's spinning the ball, that's where he's got to be pitching. Now, too often we've seen the Australians pitching on the stumps, spinning into leg or just a little bit outside. To me, the way you're going to get guys out on a regular basis, LBW, bowled, caught in behind the wicket or bat pad, is pitching out and curving away, preferably, and spinning back from outside off stump. And that's where the footmarks will be. So that's why, even if you're coming round the wicket, you've got to get that ball outside off stump to spin back and hit the top of off.
Right. We've got a second India change as well, which we haven't touched upon yet. Mohammad Shami has been rested in for workload management, and Umesh Yadav comes in. Obviously, a very potent force in home tests over the last several years. Akash, is that a move you agree with, though?
See, there's one thing that we never get to know when we are sitting quite a distance away. Is Shami carrying a bit of a niggle? Because what you mentioned at the top is right. There has been a 10-day break. Why do you need a break? It's another 3-day test match, and then he doesn't even have to play the ODIs. So that's all right. See, you can always play the test matches, win the series 3-0 and whatever else, and then it makes sense. But what if he's got a little bit of a niggle? That's what I feel. Something that we never get to know, but it stays within the dressing room. They'll tell you that it's workload management, but maybe the reason lies elsewhere. So whether we agree or disagree, I think that might be the reason, and not that Shami needs a break after 2 test matches with a 10-day break. I don't think that will be the reason.
And we'll grant India some leeway there. They've had their issues with their high profile fast bowlers and their fitness. So maybe they are going to be safer rather than sorry. Wasim, Umesh Yadav, though, has been so good in home tests. What does he bring to the table for India? And I know it's not a lot of overs that you'd expect Indian pacers to bowl, but when Umesh Yadav bowls, what is the challenge he brings in as opposed to what Shami was doing in the first couple of tests?
Well, I think he's got a very good record, first of all, bowling in India. Surprisingly, he's one of the premier bowlers who have played in India and got wickets. He does swing the ball. He's somebody who's bowled at 140 plus throughout his career. So the pace hasn't come down. And he swings the ball up front. I don't know how much swing he's going to get. And then again, he's a very good reverse swing bowler. So even if the ball is reverse swing, Umesh can be, pretty handy. And I think probably with Jasprit Bumrah might be ruled out of that World Test Championship final. India probably want to give him a go because he might be the third seamer in that World Test Championship final. So from that point of view, I think it does make sense to play him and get him used to bowling a lot of overs before India plays their World Test Championship final.
Yes, and that as far as the World Test Championship goes, one more win for India in this series should will seal their spot in the final for Australia. They're looking to avoid a 4-0 defeat because a 4-0 loss for Australia combined with a 2-0 win for Sri Lanka in New Zealand will mean it will be an India-Sri Lanka final instead of what we're expecting. All right, pretty much close to the start of play in Indore. Chappell, how do you expect day one to pan out?
Well, however it pans out. I mean, there's no good talking about what might happen. What we need to know is what does happen. And as far as chasing is concerned, I agree with Wasim that you don't want to be behind too far on the first innings. If anything, you want to be a bit in front. So Australia will be trying to restrict India. India will be trying to get a decent total on the board in the first innings. That's how the first day's play is going to go. It's a matter of let's see who has their way.
Akash and Wasim, I'll come to both of you. You're both usually happy predictors. So it's a rare chance of putting you on the spot. Let's give an end of day one score. First to you, Akash.
All right, India about 7 down for 268.
Oh, that's very specific. Incredible. Wasim, let's go to you.
Uh, I'm gonna go 320 for five.
Okay, all right. So more of a ballpark than I was expecting. All right, two very different score lines. Let's see which of you is true. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. All set for the game. India lead the series 2-0. Victory here will seal their spot in the World Test Championship final. We'll be back with these gentlemen to pick up the conversation at the end of day's play on ESPN Pick and 4 Match Day. Be sure to join us. Thank you for watching.